Om. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahmahradaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishvaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistat Kshanat. With your eyes still closed, offer your prayers to the environment. Reflect on all of the facets of nature that are perpetually giving to us. And by offering our prayers, we're offering a promise to take less and give more to the environment, to the earth, to nature. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls. Para dukkham shitalam. Para means others. Dukkha is sorrow. Shitala means cool. This saying implies we get heated up over our own sorrows, but other sorrows, that is cool to touch for us. We're not affected by that. True? We're always asking others for whatever. Sometimes articles, sometimes advice. We would shock ourselves if we were able to quantify how much we ask of others. And what Vedanta teaches us, if we only knew the sorrow that others are going through, we would never ask. In a very gross way, if I knew how hungry you were, and I was also hungry, would I come and ask you for food? I would only be adding to your sorrow, no? because now you feel bad that you can't even help me. We all need help. And I mean this in a very, we all need help. And I also mean this in a metaphysical way. Some of us need help in a preventative way. We know that the way we're living, the articles, beings, and circumstances are never going to complete us. So we need help being complete. Some of us need help in a reactive way. We've attached ourselves to the way we're living, our habits, our vasanas. We're holding on to articles, beings, and circumstances. Such a personality needs help more. If you're going to ask for help, ask help from the one who doesn't need help. That is Bhagavan. Bhagavan Krishna. In a simple way, this is called japa. Japa is not prattling. Japa is not repetition. Japa is meaningful repetition. Meaningful repetition. We began Vedanta and Bhagavata on January 6th, 2019. We're approaching 2 years of really the same message. Satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. Contemplate on who you are. That you are Bhagwan. Our course is japa in practice. It is meaningful repetition. And this is most efficient, most effective, because if you think of Bhagavan Krishna's life, he started helping people when he was 6 days old. The first asura that he helped was Putana. How old was he? 6 days old. If he can cure ignorance when he's 6 days old, he can do a lot for us. So stop asking each other for help. Ask him for help. Bhagavan Krishna's family and friends are coming to understand and appreciate this is not just a child. They're evolving from being believers to being faithful. How are they doing this? By reflecting. He should have died here, but he didn't. He should have been crushed here, but he didn't. They're reflecting on this, so they feel more faithful now. Where there is faith, there is not fear. And this was shown beautifully with Kalia in the Kalandi River, or the Yamuna. Kalia is the icon for cruelty. Cruelty. The genesis of cruelty is to first feel separate. Evidence of this, who are you least cruel to? Yourselves, because you don't feel separate from yourselves. So cruelty starts with separation and then expresses as superiority. A bully is cruel to another being because they feel superior to that other being. Superiority. And I don't have time to get into that detail, but Kalia felt he was superior to Garuda, as in Bhagavan Narayana's vehicle, and Garuda put him in his place. But he had that sense. This was in his being to be cruel. Now, Kalia has 5 heads. What do you have 5 of? Pairs of glasses, Vivekji. Kids. We have 5 sense organs. And what are sense organs ever engaged in? Vishaya. Vishaya means sense objects. For our Sanskrit and Hindi speakers, what does vish mean? Poison. Vish means poison. Our sense organs are ever engaged in sense objects. Like Kalia had poison in his mouth, and when you have something in your mouth, you ingest some of it even as you're trying to spit it out, correct? Like I have a cough drop in my mouth, even if I tried to spit it at you in this really weird example, I would have to ingest some of it too, correct? So Kalia is like that. We're like that too. We're ingesting poison, then anything that's going to come out of us is going to be cruel then, right? Kalia is tamasic. And this is shown by his appearance being dark. He's dark in mind, but his embodiment was dark too. Whereas his wives, they're icons of sattva. And what this shows for us is that even in our tamasic thoughts, there are some sattvic thoughts. Instead of listening to the tamasic ones, we should listen to the sattvic ones. So as I keep speaking, the tamasic thought of, I should close my eyes and pretend like I'm listening, resist that. Listen to your sattvic thoughts. Keep your eyes open. Now, how can we let go of cruelty? How can we be like Bhagavan Krishna? Compassion. The cure to cruelty is compassion. And you know this word, and there's lots of quotes around it. Here's another insight into compassion. Be passionate about others. Be passionate about listening to others, speaking for others. We're infatuated with ourselves, always thinking about ourselves, always speaking about ourselves. One who's trying to be compassionate is passionate about others. What Swami Tejomayananda shared in terms of Kalia, that he's even more fortunate than Bali. How many feet were put on Bali's head? Just one. How many feet were put on Kalia's head? Can't even count. Remember, Bhagavan was shifting from head to head to head, and his feet move as fast as Zakir Hussein's fingers move. You can see his fingers move. They're so fast, correct? Bhagavan's feet are even faster. And what Swami Tapasyananda shared, that's the commentary we're all reading, is Bhagavan Krishna is literally Amara. Amara means the one who cannot die. And there's lots of movies that try to portray that, like the Hulk. The Hulk really can't die, but nobody wants to be the Hulk. We may look like the Hulk, we may act like the Hulk, but nobody wants to be like the Hulk. But really, the one who cannot die is this 6-year-old naughty boy. He is deathlessness. We continue the 10th skanda, the 19th adhyaya, the 11th shloka. 10, 19, 11. Rishi Shuka is continuing to share with Raja Parikshita the Leela of Bhagavan Krishna. Vacho nishamya kripanam bandhunam Bhagavan Harihi nimilayata ma lochanan itya bhashata. Rishi Shuka shares with Raja Parikshita, when Bhagavan Krishna heard the plea, the sorrow of those around him, then what he told them was, close your eyes and do not be afraid. This is such a lovely line, and I'll tell you the context of it, but we should feel this all the time. Whenever there's stress, anxiety, sadness, close your eyes and do not be afraid, which really means close your eyes and have faith. So what happened? When Bhagavan Krishna came out of the Yamuna, Kalia and his wives had left. All of the humans, all of the animals were so relieved, but they were also exhausted. If you've ever been to a hospital where someone is not well, it's very physically and mentally taxing. So they're all exhausted and they decide to sleep on the banks of the Yamuna. And what is approaching now is the summer, so a forest fire actually began. And as everyone is sleeping, some smelt this, and they came to Bhagavan Krishna, see, with faith now. They're approaching the 6-year-old boy. They're feeling he's Amara. Please help us. And what did Bhagavan Krishna say? Close your eyes and do not be afraid. And what did he do? He opened his mouth and all of that fire went into his mouth. And this is a small portion of Bhagavatam, but the depth of this happening is fire is an element, is an effect. Where do the elements come from? The creator. Where do effects come from? The cause. So deep imagery just with that. The effect cannot hurt the cause. You are the cause. The body, the mind, the intellect, these are all effects. They will die. Let them die. You are Amara. That is the spirit. Now some more Leela. I was sharing that summer is approaching. How many of you have ever been in Bharat, in India, in the summer? Wrong question. How many of you have not been in India in the summer? Have not? Okay, some haven't. You've never experienced summer then. The heat, the humidity. When I got to Mumbai, I arrived in the middle of August. This was right after, if you remember, in 2005, the huge amount of rain fell into Mumbai, so much so that in the streets around the ashram, there were alligators and fish. They'd come out of the lake and were just in the street. There was so much water. And my only experience with summer in India was through movies. I always went to India in the winter, and my mind was blown that it just always rains. Nothing dries. But with Bhagavan Krishna, everyone felt like it was spring. That's the point I'm trying to make. And they all felt like it was spring. It's a very jovial time. And now as Bhagavan Krishna is getting older, he started to show people what a strong dancer he is. Remember, he was dancing on Kalia. Before it was kid-like dancing, but the English definitions here are, he's a super dancer. So Bhagavan Krishna is now revealing what a super dancer he is. And the depth of this is, he is the originator of all the performing arts. We're already seeing he's the original actor, correct? He's the original dancer. Soon we will come to see he's the original musician. So whenever you want to be better with the performing arts, don't look to Hollywood. Don't look to Bollywood. Everything can be found in Bhagavan Krishna. When Bhagavan Krishna started dancing, the Devas and Devis in the heavens, they all manifested as Gopas and Gopis just to be around him dancing, occasionally to dance with him. At one point, when Bhagavan Krishna was dancing, he was lost, and so were the Gopas and Gopis. And the animals, they were doing their own thing, looking for food, and so they also got lost. And once again, Bhagavan Krishna tried to find them. And as he tried to find them, another forest fire surrounded them. Another forest fire surrounded them. And I like the reality of this, that even now we see forest fires in California, correct? Even though December is now approaching, we're in the middle of December. And how they tried to find these cows is so beautiful. They were following the hoof prints, seeing where that grass was nibbled. And Bhagavan Krishna once again took this fire into his mouth, and all of these Gopas and Gopis, they felt more faith. And when they came back home, all of the parents would so look forward to talking to their kids. Very different than present times, correct? Parents ask their kids, "How was your day?" Kids say, "I never asked you how your day was. Why are you asking me about my day?" But that's not how these families were. They loved hearing about what Bhagavan Krishna was up to. And the kids loved sharing about that too. Shortly after that, the Gopas, the Gopis, all of the cows, all of the calves, they're wandering around. And another Asura named Pralamba Asura, this is the next guest on our show, he decided that he wants to graze with the calves and cows and gopis and gopas, so he disguised himself as a gopa. And these gopas, they played so many games. Some of the details are, they would often have food fights. Have any of you ever had a food fight before? They're disastrous for a school. We used to have food fights in our school a lot. And unfortunately, the source of food fights is Bhagavan Krishna and his friends, but they were in the jungle. It's totally different. They would be playing leapfrog with each other. They would be playing darbar, where one person would be the leader, and then everyone else would be the ministers, and they would have this dialogue. So when Pralamba showed up, Bhagavan Krishna knew this. Balarama knew this too. Nobody else did. So they started playing a physical game, and the loser of that game would have to carry the winning team on their shoulders. It's like playing piggyback. So Pralamba knew that he couldn't defeat Bhagavan Krishna, so he joined Bhagavan Krishna's team. And they were playing against Balarama's team. Now, Balarama's team won. Bhagavan Krishna allowed that. So what did Pralamba do? He carried Balarama on his shoulders. That was like a losing dance that you have to do. And Pralamba, once he had Balarama on his shoulders, started running. And he was running fast, where everyone was shocked at what was happening. And Pralamba means the one who grows taller and taller. So with Balarama on his shoulders, he was growing taller where they were reaching the sky then. And Balarama, he started to not like this game so much. He knew this was a Leela too. So he hits Pralamba once and destroys Pralamba. And Bhagavan Krishna is smiling the whole time. These brothers are awesome. Just visualizing, you take care of that one. I got this one. Well done. In the text, when all of the kids saw this, they were going, sadhu, sadhu, which means well done, well done. Now, what does Pralamba stand for? Any guesses? What does this asura stand for in our personalities? What keeps on growing? What gets taller and taller? Expectations, ego, and some have rightfully shared greed. Pralamba is the icon for greed. Greed is when one gives precedent to individual success over collective aspirations. And I'm using those words consciously. Whenever you do anything for the individuality, it's a goal. It is success. It is filled with rajas or aggressiveness. Like Pralamba, how fast he was running, how he was growing. The opposite of this is collective aspiration. Aspiration is infused with sattva. It's about all of us. And that is Balarama. He was thinking about all of the calves, cows, etc. Those who are greedy really are trying to piggyback on others. They've not done the work, but they expect the results. Many younger seekers, high school students, they exhibit this in the form of entitlement. Yes, they've not done the work, but they expect to be looked after in whatever way. You've all come across such personalities. They're living in your home right now. This piggybacking. So how do we address this? Be generous. The opposite of greed is generosity. And here, another insight for you. In being generous, you have to adapt to having less outside, but still feel the same inside. That's what generosity is. You never feel lesser. You feel the same or more. If I have 5 kurtas, shirts, and I give one away, those who are greedy will feel less content. Now I have one less article. But those who are practicing generosity, even with less outside, you still feel the same inside. Understood? And the beauty of this is when you give up everything, body, breath, mind, intellect, and finally ego, you've given it all away, but you feel the most full, the most real. So in this part of our Leela, what was highlighted was the forest fire and Pralamba. The forest fire I'm going to describe to you more in the next class. This is actually Agni Devata. Just like Bhagavan Brahma is a sura, but there is still a vice there. Agni Devata is also a sura, but there's also a vice here. I just want you to reflect on this more. That the forest fire comes twice. This is not because Bhagavan Vedavyasa, who wrote Bhagavatam, was bored. Let's just keep sending forest fires out there. There's a small fire, then there's a bigger one. How come? Vices are like this. And then I just mentioned about Pralamba being greed. We'll quickly study one more verse. The 10th Adhyaya I'm sorry. The 10th skanda, the 20th adhyaya, the 43rd shloka. 10, 20, 43. Rishi Shuka is sharing with Raja Parikshita. Kama shobata nirmegham sharad vimalatarakam sattva yuktam yatha chittam shabda brahmarta darshanam. And what this means is the skies have cleared out. And with the skies clear, the stars can be seen. Just like one who is sattvic. Their thoughts have cleared out, so they understand the Veda, Shabda Brahma, fully. So now you need to know some of the context to this. So I shall begin. What I'm going to share with you now, you can jot it down, scribble it down, but every one of the points I'm going to make, I'm going to share 10 points with you. All of them have to be contemplated upon. I cannot give more time than I'm going to right now because each one is half an hour of insight. This would be 300 minutes itself. If you remember, in Vedanta and Ramayana, there is a portion where Bhagwan Rama and Sri Lakshmana couldn't travel. It's called Chatur Masya, the rainy season I was just describing. And Bhagwan Rama and Sri Lakshmana couldn't live in any sort of kingdom, so they lived in the jungle. And what to do for 4 months? I had shared with all of you a sign I saw relating to COVID. I shared this in Meaningful Mornings. I just finished Netflix. Not a series. I finished all of Netflix. That's what we do when we're bored, correct? I just finished Disney Plus. What they did was observe nature and see how it relates to them. The exact same imagery and teachings are now shared in Bhagavatam. That's why I'm going to list them out for you to contemplate upon. Okay, be with me. Number 1, there's so much poetry here, okay? I'm just selecting some significant points. The clouds are covering the sun like the gunas cover Brahman. When we see the clouds covering the sun, do you think like that? But they do. All of the water that the sun has taken out, as in evaporated over the last 8 months, that water is now being given back over 4 months, just like a king does post taxes. Correct? A leader collects funds, but what should they do with those funds? Give them back in the right way. All of you text this to your senators, to your governors, this portion of Bhagavatam. Because of all of the rain, there was grass everywhere, there were mushrooms everywhere, almost like a royal parade. If you've ever seen a royal parade, they're holding that umbrella, correct? Over all of the important people. So the next time you see a mushroom, don't break it. Think of the important people in your life. Another. The torrential rains keep lashing against the mountains, just like mean people treat sadhus. But that mountain is immovable, just like a sadhu. Insult means nothing to them. Number 5, the cows, they were walking so slowly because their udders were full, but when Bhagavan Krishna called them, they would still struggle to get to him. Whenever we feel very slow, we should also still make it to be with him. Number 6, as autumn approached, then the clouds cleared. And so what happened was the sky cleared, the land became settled, the water became still, just like a seeker, when they're following their responsibilities, everything at their intellect and mind and body level becomes quieter. Like in the summer, the water is very turbulent. When we're agitated, we can't see what's inside. But as that water becomes quieter, you get to see what's inside at all levels, body, mind, intellect. I think that was 6, right? 7. With autumn, there was less insects. Things became quieter. Just like with someone who's enlightened, sometimes they speak and sometimes they're just quiet. Number 8, the fish that were swimming in the autumn waters, they don't realize that that water they're swimming in is evaporating. They're not going to have water. Just like people who get lost in living for their family, they fail to appreciate that their lifespan is being evaporated. They're thinking and acting in a small way. Number 9, all of the lush trees and grass during the summer, during the rain, they started giving up some of that foliage, some of that volume, just like a seeker gives up the sense of I. They let go of their identification with their body. So they're giving that up. And what I just read to you, with a cloudless sky, you can see the stars clearly. When one has a sattvic mind, all that is shared in the Shruti, that is Upanishad, Smriti, that is Gita, Puranas, like Ramayana and Bhagavatam, one understands this. That's all the time I can give to this. But really, each of these messages you can go on and on and on with. So contemplate on these 10 very poetic teachings. When we meet again to complete this semester, I shared some about Bhagavan being a super dancer. Now I will share some about him being a super musician. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.